Good afternoon. My name is Councillor Kerr. I'm an independent councillor for the Cabra-Glasnevin area. I'm chairing this next section on organisational methods for the campaign. The people speaking will be Gregor Kerr, who was secretary of the anti-water tax campaign during the 80s and has a huge amount of experience. And the other speaker will be Micheál Colm McGilla Espig from Errigy, from Donegal, who will be tying in this campaign with the campaign against the septic tank tax. And it's also to spread the geographical speaking list. And just before they speak, as I've said, this is the organisational part of the campaign, because this is going to be absolutely vital. And we don't want to make the same mistakes that were made during the bin tax campaign. A lot of work has been done prior to this in suggesting methods of organisation, and as people have said today, it'll be absolutely vital to get ordinary people, ordinary residents and ordinary communities involved in this campaign if we have any hope of winning at all. This will be the first opportunity for ordinary people to have their say on a tax that the government are imposing. They didn't have a chance prior to this. This is the first time that they can actually decide whether to pay or not, and it's our job and the campaign's job to ensure that we convince them that we shouldn't pay, and let them send a signal to the government that while they're bailing out the bankers and all the rest of that good stuff, that we are not going to bail out the government. To make a comment on the campaign itself, apart from the fact that we must mobilise in the communities, obviously the timescale is against us. The fact that they intend, we believe, to bring this in on the 1st of January, and that we have a Christmas period during that time, will create problems. So it's absolutely vital again that people get into the communities and begin working immediately. I'll hand over straight away to Gregor Kerr from WSM first of all.
Thanks, Kieran. And I suppose in starting a discussion around organisation against the household tax and organisational methods for the campaign, I'm very aware that I'm sitting in front of a room full of people, many of whom are very experienced campaigners and have been involved in campaigns down through the years on various different issues. So I suppose I might start by just apologising if I oversimplify some stuff in terms of organisational methods and stuff. But in apologising, I think something that we maybe should take from it is that at every step of the campaign, as we set out to organise this campaign, we should go out of our way to simplify what we're doing and to involve people that don't have experience and that haven't done such stuff before, and that we don't create any sort of feeling among people that political campaigning is the preserve of experts or leaders or people with experience. Now, I'm not saying that from any ideological perspective, although my anarchist ideology would obviously inform it, but purely from a practical point of view, the only way that this tax can be defeated is through the mass involvement of hundreds of thousands of people. That's the only way. That's the task we're setting ourselves out today, is the mass involvement of hundreds of thousands of people. And that mass involvement, not just as non-payers, but as people who will become organisers in their communities and become organisers of the campaign in their areas. Now, if the last few years have shown us anything, it's that the combined forces of the left are very much on the back foot. So if we're going to defeat this tax, we need to build a campaign that goes way beyond the audiences that we usually attract. And we need to support and encourage that audience to not just remain as an audience, but to become players, to give up the role of onlooker while politics happens around them and become involved in shaping the decisions that's affecting their lives. The clientelist nature of Irish politics means that most people, when they come along to a meeting or when they discuss issues in the pub or whatever, want someone else to do stuff for them, to solve their problems. Someone should do something about it. The message that we need to give to people and what we need to convince people is that there is no somebody to win this battle for them. The battle will only be won by the active involvement of people. So we need to take a step back ourselves and go out of our way then to support and encourage people getting actively involved in building the campaigns in their own areas. So we do need to simplify stuff. We need people who have never discussed politics with their neighbours before to go out knocking on doors and start convincing their neighbours to not pay this tax and to get involved in the campaign. And we can only do that if we simplify it, make it easy, and support and encourage people. So from the outset, what I want to make clear is that we need to be very, very honest with people at every single meeting we go to. We're not offering anybody a service. We're not coming along to meetings and standing up and saying, we're going to defeat this tax for you. What we are doing is we're offering people a challenge and an opportunity to get involved in defeating the tax. And that's what we have to do, because if everybody comes along to the public meetings, etc., that are organised around this issue, gets up, we've all been at meetings where we've seen it happening. Several hundred people at a meeting, everybody is angry, and everybody gets up and gives out about the government and gives out about everybody, and then goes home and waits for somebody to do something. We need to make sure that of those couple of hundred people, or whatever number that turn up at the public meeting, that we're getting some of them immediately actively involved, and that we're starting to build. And what I want to try and do for the next few minutes is just talk about some of the ways that that might be possible. I've taken the lessons from the previous campaigns against the water charge, from the campaign against the bin tax, and from plenty of other local campaigns that people have been involved in. I'm not claiming to be the expert on it. A lot of you people are the experts on it. What we need to do is pool our experience, pool what has won and what hasn't won. And it's important, a couple of people have referred to the bin tax campaign. It's important for us to remember that in some areas, the way the bin tax campaign turned out left a bitter pill in some people's mouths because we didn't win. And we have to be prepared to face up to it, to learn from the mistakes, and to not repeat them this time around. So just in terms of looking at how we might build a campaign, I want to outline the approach that's been taken in Dublin so far, and hopefully from that we'll be able to extrapolate some ideas that might be useful in other areas. I'm not outlining that in any way to be prescriptive or to say this is the way it has to be done, but just to throw out ideas, throw out examples which local campaigns might be able to use for themselves. Joe already referred earlier on that there was an initial meeting held earlier this year, I think it was. It seems a lot longer ago actually, Joe, but I think it was just earlier this year. And from that there was an interim coordinating committee set up. Now very early on it was agreed that of necessity, while we might start off, we obviously started off with a group of political activists, members of political organisations, independent political activists, etc. That what we want to do, our real ambition, is to move as quickly as possible from being a coalition of political organisations and activists to being a real, genuine federation of local campaigns. Now, that might seem obvious, but actually it's really, really important that it's stated that what we don't want in 6 months' time is that we're still a coalition of political organisations and activists. In 6 months' time, we need to be, if we're going to win, a federation of real, genuine local campaigns. So that interim coordinating committee should effectively be seeing its job as being to make itself redundant, and that the role of coordinating the committee coordinating the campaign will be taken over by representatives and delegates from local campaign groups as they're established. That's a formula that I think can also be used at a national level. Very simple in a way. We're here today, and that maybe from today's meeting, what we're looking to do, perhaps with the agreement of the meeting, as we discuss later on, is establish an interim national coordinating group for the campaign, but with the express objective that what that committee is setting out to do is help and assist in the establishment of local campaign groups in every city and in every town in this country, with the objective of coming back here in January or February and having real representative delegates from each of those committees here to establish a properly functioning and properly democratic campaign. The approach in Dublin in terms of organising local groups, I think, would also be useful, or may be useful, for people in their own areas. Because obviously we came together as members of political organisations, as political activists. And not everybody in any particular community will know, well, who's a member of each of the political organisations. And what we didn't want, or what we don't want, is a situation whereby meetings are being called by members of one particular political organisation to the exclusion of others, where we end up with members of one political organisation running the campaign in one area and members of another political organisation running the campaign in another area. So political organisations have shared the information they have regarding areas in which they have members and activists. The city and the county of Dublin have been divided up into areas. A convener has been appointed for each area. And that convener has one specific job, and only one specific job, and that's to organise a private meeting of the different political activists from the parties and organisations involved, from which series of public meetings in each local area will be organised. And those, when they are established then, when those public meetings are held, that will be the functioning group of the campaign from there. So that, I think, is really, really important that we do that, because we will not build a successful campaign if political parties or political organisations want ownership of the campaign in a particular area or want to brand the campaign in a particular area. Everywhere, the campaign has to be both open and democratic, and also, and equally importantly as being open and democratic, has to be seen to be open and democratic. We have to make sure that all of the individuals that we want to get involved, that have never been involved in anything before, do not feel they're being manipulated by somebody, or somebody has a hidden agenda, etc. So therefore it is important, it's crucially important that we do that on that open and democratic basis, and that we build those campaigns. Somebody referred to it earlier on in the earlier session about party banners, etc. Really, in terms of building the campaign, everybody is entitled to be members of their political organisations and bring their ideas, etc., and sell their papers and anything they want to do at meetings. But what is important is that the campaign group in any area is not the domain of any particular political party or organisation. Now, that has been accepted by all of the political organisations at the meetings of the Interim Steering Committee.